every year around this time, we dust off one of our favorite conversations, which is all about how do you ensure that you have a holiday season that really truly does meet your needs, that you're not just sort of going along to get along through the holidays or bouncing around from place to place, but you're really looking at your holiday experience through that lens of what is truly going to be satisfying for you, and how do you have an experience that's really authentic. One of the things that I've come to know and sort of realize with all of the work that we've done is it's so easy to get into that place of adapting and really sort of adapting to other people's traditions, other people's expectations, other people's norms, and sort of losing ourselves or bailing on ourselves or overextending ourselves, whether it's in terms of time and commitment out in shopping, spending, whatever it may be. And so we don't end up having really truly creating the holiday season that we want to have. And this year in particular, with everything that's gone on with COVID and the expectations that we not get together with our family, that we stay at home, we celebrate on our own or with the people in our household, it is providing a new kind of challenge and a new kind of experience for us to work through, to navigate. And it's really easy. I know, sometimes we head into the holidays and we hear people starting to talk about, I have to do my Christmas shopping and I have to get this done. And, that in normal times, everybody feels so busy and so pressed. And so what I want to talk to you about tonight is that how do we actually come into a situation like this? And we're going to focus on the holidays, but it's pretty much true for any aspect of our lives, is how do we go into something like this and really being mindful of what is it that we want? What's the experience that we want to have? What's the feeling we want to create? How do we want to leave this time and this space? I still get very excited about Christmas. I love Christmas. I love the potential of Christmas. I love the joy of it, the fun, the laughter, not just the time with the families, but there's aspects of it to me for Christmas about, sort of beautiful and it's lit up and, and there's just a different experience around that time of year. We have great family traditions, and over the years we've adapted and shifted those traditions to change them to accommodate family and shifting experiences within the family. But and so that's sort of a cornerstone for us, and we look forward to it always. And this year, of course, our traditions are, well, we're not even sure what our traditions are going to be, but we know that the way we've normally done it, the way it's always been done, is not going to be what we are going to be doing this year. And so it brings out an interesting conversation about how do we stop ourselves from going into some of those automatic negative thoughts that you might be feeling, you might be experiencing, you might be talking to yourself about that's not going to be the same, and why bother, and should I put this stuff up, should I put the Christmas things out, nobody's going to be coming to my house, should we be baking cookies? All of those things sort of start to come into play because we can't see what the experience is going to be like. We're not taking that time to really envision, and because our past experience, we can't bring it forward and say this is what we're going to be doing this year, we can find ourselves feeling really negative and really having negative conversations and a lot of negative thoughts around the way it's going to be, whether it's anything from telling ourselves that, well, this isn't going to be fun and we're not going to enjoy it, right through to, this is too much trouble, this is too difficult, and really starting to feel ourselves get depressed, get really feeling disconnected because we don't know how to create that experience that it is that we really want. So I want you to think about it as we go through the session today. It's really about looking at and looking forward from that place of envisioning. So using the part of the brain that we use to think about the future and envision what it is that we want to create. What's the experience we want for ourselves? And how do we go about that, creating that experience for ourselves despite all of the restrictions and all of the challenges? Because life is difficult. That's a fact. And it's a Buddhist saying that life is difficult, but the suffering is optional. And we don't like to have the restrictions imposed upon us, for sure, that we know are there, but it's also ourselves not just going into that place of reacting and adapting to those, but using this as an opportunity to think about what do we want to create, because we can create even within the constraints, even within the restrictions, even within the loss of our traditions and the familiar, there is always that opportunity to go ahead and create. I know one of the things for me, we actually brought our Christmas out a little bit earlier, that we spent a little bit more time doing some things within our household, that to really enjoy and appreciate it, that even though others might not be coming into the home to participate in it with us, but it's meaningful to us, and there's meaning to us in doing it and holding some of that tradition, and recognizing that we do these traditions for ourselves, not just to impress others or for the benefit of others, but this is because it does something for us and supports our well-being and our happiness. So it is about creating that experience. When we focus, and we know this through all the months and months that you've been here with us, we know that when we focus on our feelings, when we focus on what we have to complain about or what we're worrying about, instead of putting our creativity into solutions, that all we're doing is creating suffering for ourselves. And we don't want to have that. This is the holiday season. This is the time of joy, of celebration, of love. And so how do we embrace that, and how do we go about creating it in a really different way? And so we want to put our creativity right now into not creating suffering, but really into creating those solutions that will allow us to plan how it is that we're going to celebrate, how it is that we are going to celebrate safely, okay? If you think for a minute about how the people around you are talking about the holidays, right? What are they saying? What's their reaction? What's their response to it? And even think about how it is that you might be in the habit of talking, right? And one of the things that I've caught myself on is I've been saying, oh, I'm more on top of my Christmas shopping than I ever have been, because I started my planning much further back than I would normally, in anticipation of the uncertainty of where things might be going around all of this, and as a part of my commitment to make sure that we were providing the opportunity to support the local businesses, as opposed to just doing whatever was simplest and easiest. And so I knew in order to create the experience that I wanted to create, I had to do something really differently. There wasn't going to be any last minute shopping at the stores or at the malls with my kids like there normally is every year. And so if it's what we say, right, it's what we're saying, what we're telling ourselves about the holidays, that there's and I've heard this from a couple of people, what's the point, right? What's the point? Why bother? I'm not even going to bother getting a Christmas tree. And so again, we come back to those things, those conversations you're having with yourself, even if it's like, I can't go shopping, I'm so anxious I won't be able to return the presents, or I'm so sick of Zoom, I just want to be able to see people. All of those automatic negative thoughts that are getting triggered in you are actually adding fuel to the fire. It's actually driving or, sort of inflaming the despair and depression that you're feeling. And you're not able, when that's the focus, is on those negative thoughts that are coming up. And again, they get triggered naturally and normally in the process of our day-to-day lives. But if you're focused on those, if you're engaging in those and really reinforcing those, then it doesn't provide you with the opportunity to think about what do you really want to create, and to envision what it is and how it's going to be different, okay? What's going on right now is impermanent, and like all things in life, it too will pass. But if we spend our time really hating or being anxious about an uncertain future, that is just going to create suffering for us. So today's focus is really about starting to shift away from that conversation in yourself to really envisioning and starting to think about and starting to plan what it is the experience, what's the experience that you want to create for yourself, okay? So instead of allowing our brains to get hijacked by these negative thoughts and the distressing feelings around what's happening right now and how that's going to impact in on our traditions or what it is we want to do, if you normally travel this time of year and you can't be doing that, all of these things are being affected, okay? And it does, we know our brain has that bias for negativity, and so it takes a lot more work for us to generate the positive feelings, okay? But if you lead all of your conversations with, I'm so stressed or I'm so overwhelmed, it actually creates more distress for us and for the people around us. And it absolutely keeps us from moving forward. So here's the question for you, and this is what we want you to start thinking about and asking yourself and asking the people around you that you're going to be celebrating this holiday season with, however it is you're going to be celebrating with them safely. What type of holiday season do you want to have? right? Start to reflect on it. And again, you hear I keep saying, what type, what's the experience, what's the feelings you want to have? What is it that you want to come out on the other side and having created for yourself? Because this is your opportunity to do so. Thinking, always shifting our thinking to what do we want to create? What do we want to create in this season and in this experience? So if you're already telling yourself that it's going to be stressful, and therefore maybe starting to create some feelings of dread about it, notice that story and start to shift about it, because it's not what's actually happening. We actually even haven't hit Christmas yet. We haven't hit that time of celebration yet. So it's starting to think about, if you're telling yourself and you're saying you're dreading it, and we haven't even moved into actually what's going on, shift the focus into the present and look at sort of where you are at today. Take that moment and breathe. And recognize that in this moment, you choose that happiness, that gratitude, that sense of celebration and awe that can come hand in hand with this time of year. What is it that you want to experience, right? I know for me that one of the things that I've, sort of really been mindful around is carving out that piece of time every single day where I get to work towards whatever that experience is going to be for us around Christmas. And so really being attentive to it, trying to plan it out in advance, thinking about how we're going to organize it, because it is going to be different. We normally host at our family Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. We go out and about to see other families. We have secondary family celebrations later on after Boxing Day. So there's always a lot of activity that's going on. So this year there isn't going to be that same level of activity. And so what is it that we're going to do instead? And how do we create that connection? And so we're starting to talk about that and to look at that as from a family perspective. Are there things that we can try to do that we've never tried to do before? Are there ways in which we can, we always have a tree trimming party with the extended family the first month or the first weekend in December. Can we do that virtually? It's not going to be the same, but do we have to totally miss out, or is there something else that we can do instead? So finding those ways, because what we're trying to create, what we're really committed to creating, is that same feeling of family, right? That same experience to be together and to be celebrating together as a family. The other thing I want you to consider as an activity around all of this is what are you afraid of? When you think about the holiday season, what are some of those fears that are getting triggered in you? And are those fears bringing up feelings of powerlessness and helplessness? And then again, write down, apart from that, is what is it that you want to experience, and who do you want to experience it with? And the interesting thing in my family dynamic, my husband's quite content over the fact that we can't do all of this high levels of socializing that we normally do, because it doesn't naturally meet his need. He doesn't have that high need for socializing. He appreciates the rituals. He likes the tradition. He grumbles about some of the stuff, but he's the first one in there, taking pictures once all the decorations are up outside, or, making sure that we've done certain activities and we've covered certain tasks off as we go along. So again, that's still appreciating it within it. So what do we want to experience? Who do we want to experience with? How are we going to prioritize that? How are we going to make that possible and find a different way to navigate it? So again, it's about creating, right? It's not about telling ourselves that we're so tired with Zoom, or we're so tired of not having this or not having that, and in focusing instead on, well, what can I create in its place? And keep doing that. Keep asking yourself, what do you want to experience and who do you want to experience with, until you start to build out that vision, right? That's the step of moving you towards that. Once you have that vision of what you want to experience, what that experience really looks like, what are you feeling? What are you noticing? What are you aware of, and who are you doing it with? And as you focus on that vision, really notice how that changes your feelings, and changes your feelings from that sense of powerlessness and helplessness to one where you're feeling really powerful and very purposeful, right? This is what it is about moving from those negative thoughts to actually going into that place of envisioning and creating. It gives us back that feeling of hope, of possibility, and again, we can start to plan around it, okay? I want you also to think about and watch yourself over the next week around what are the things that you are complaining about as it relates to the holidays. What are some of the things that you are telling other people about what you are experiencing and what you're doing and what you're not doing? And start to change that dialogue, not just with other people, but also with yourself, because you're striving to create that change shifting, sorry, that change focus from negative to positive, but you're also starting to focus on the experience, because every time you complain, every time you focus on the negative, every time you focus on what it is that you don't have, you're not creating that experience that you said that you set out in your vision that you wanted to create. You're actually pulling yourself away from it, okay? And always doing those check-ins, right? When we really are focused on creating the experience we want, we're checking in on how we're feeling and whether or not we are attending to it, right? So we've got that vision now, and we've got our plan, and are we working up against that plan? Stay focused on what you want to feel and experience, and talk to others about it, right? Getting them excited, and let the spirit of the season bring you joy through that process. And again, it's not, we know we have some of our traditions we just have to set aside this year. And it's not just about being okay with it, but it's looking at what are we going to create in its place. And that positivity, that focus on creating, is actually what alleviates some of the stress for us as well, right? It's that bringing in that notion of joy. And really nurturing ourselves in a different way by engaging our creativity and our playfulness. This is the season to be playful. This is the season to have fun, right? And that's what we normally associate it with, whether we're out celebrating at parties, or we're just hanging with friends, or we're, sort of going for walks outside and experiencing all the lights that are out there, the Christmas windows, whatever it may be. It's really thinking about, how am I going to nurture myself through this season and really take care to have that experience that it is that I want? How can I create that sense of play, that sense of awe, that sense of family and connection and love? Whatever this season means for you, what is it that you are going to do in order to be able to create that again? So I know it's hard, right? And we talk about this and we say it's tough. I mean, even for me, I love my traditions, and they are well crafted, trust me. But at the same time, it's those traditions that have, if it's not the things we do, it's the experience that we have with other people. So how can we find other ways to create those experiences? What else might we do that we have never done before? And this does really push us out of our comfort zone. And if you've got members of your family that are really good at this, and so it's really, again, not focusing on the what, but in terms of, I do this and then I do this from that task perspective, but really focus on what's the experience, what's the feeling that you want to have, what is that you want to be able to say about it when you come through to the end of the season. What do you want to be able to say about your experience going through that? What do you want to be able to say that you were able to experience, and who you were able to experience with, as the formation of that vision? And then you build your plan to make that happen. And you engage others. You absolutely engage others, because sometimes the fun can be in the planning, the kicking around with the ideas, the everything from the absurd to the ridiculous. I mean, all of us are doing it. We're planning staff Christmas parties without being face to face. We're planning family celebrations. I know in our case we've got lots of December birthdays, which are also getting rolled up into all of this. And it is a different time, but it doesn't mean that we do nothing. It doesn't mean we want to be running around complaining, because as I said at the start, it's that focus on the negative. It's when we focus on what we're missing out, even though we haven't even hit it yet, when we start focusing on that and worrying about that and feeling anxious about that, that it actually shuts down our creativity. It shuts down our ability to really, truly create the holiday experience and the holiday season that we want to have. And we talk about it from that, we have the power, we have the innate power, we have that potential to create for ourselves, to create in our lives whatever it is that we can envision. So this is your exercise, and this is your challenge for this week, is to start to envision that. What's that experience going to look like? Who are you going to have that experience with? And I can't wait to see you share in the comments, in the feed, your plans, your ideas, your thoughts about how you are going to go about making this holiday season the experience that you want to have. With that, we're going to wrap up for today. Thanks everyone so much for joining me. Can't wait to see you next week. We're going to be talking some more about the holiday season and how it is that we are all going to navigate through this time and to create what it is that we want to have, so that we are feeding ourselves and really powering up our innate potential throughout the whole process. We'll see you next time.